What did you say?
You want me to tell you when it goes?
Yeah?
Here it goes. Loading. Oh.
No screens?
Yeah.
Oh. Hi, friends. Can you guys hear me? Oof. Hey, Blake. Okay, boomer already? It's true. Hi, guys. I have my eggplant here. Can everybody hear me pretty well?
Sounds good.
Awesome. I've got Dave behind me listening so he can tell me if he can hear me and all that stuff. All right, anyway. Oh my goodness. Oh, these compliments. So I'm going to try my hardest to kind of like peek and answer questions, and Dave's going to help me if you guys have any specific questions or you want to talk about anything. And because I won't have my eyes on the screen, so that'll be nice. Right, Dave?
That's right.
He's back there. Okay, so I figure let's just get started because I got a whole cake to do. Oh, we got a little echo happening. We got a whole cake to do. So I'm going to try to do this in a quick manner. We'll see, but also very accurate. So here I have my eggplant. It's kind of a beast. The first thing that I want to do is I'm going to trace out a template. And I'm literally going to use the eggplant because I have it here. So why not? I'm going to make it a little smaller than the actual eggplant because I'm going to add chocolate later and that's going to bulk it up a bit. So that's pretty good. I'm just going to talk you guys through this because it feels natural. Where are my scissors? All right. So this is just parchment. I like to use templates because it makes my life easier. I usually do this off camera. Oh. All right. I didn't unwrap my cake yet. I'm gonna put some gloves on, 'cause that seems to be the thing to do right now. Alright. So I'm gonna bring over some cake. What are you laughing at?
Pretty cool.
Whoop.
Pretty cool for first timers.
Yeah, right? I'm already off camera for most of it, so I'm doing a great job. Sorry, guys. I'm here, I swear. Okay, so I put some parchment down so I can be a little clean. And I'm bringing the cake over. Came prepared. Ugh. All right. We got some chocolate cake. Let me move this a little bit so you can see. All right, first thing I want to do is I want to take my template. I'm going to trace out my eggplant with a knife. I like to use this cheapo little steak knife. So if you think I have fancy things to do this, I don't. I like it because it's small and it's serrated. I should get new knives though, for real. Oh no, a little crumbly.
Lusa wants to know what flavor of icing we're going to use.
Ooh, let me see. Let me get a bowl for scratch. you know, when we do these videos, a lot of times it's kind of leftover cake and leftover icing that we have from other orders because we want to like utilize that cake. Okay, I got some cracking. I'm gonna ignore that. So so for this one, we actually have some leftover vanilla Swiss buttercream. Super delicious. So sometimes we'll use American. American is more like traditional American. It's gonna be super sweet, but Swiss is made with egg whites. So it's American's like butter and sugar pretty much, a version of that with some things added. But Swiss has the egg whites, which makes it like smoother and lighter, way less sweet. Very good. I always think of Swiss as being a little bit more adult, and then American is more for kids. But everybody's a little different. We got vanilla and chocolate. I think I'm only going to need 2 layers for this, now that I'm looking at the height of this guy. So it's always nice to have the real thing, because then I can I have a better idea of how tall, how many layers of cake I need and all that fun stuff. I can base it on that. Sticky guy. All right, let's see, I got 1 layer, 2 layer, and that is tall enough, so I'm gonna get this stuff out of here. This will be future cake I make. I'm thinking about doing strawberries maybe. We'll see. What do you guys think I should make? I need suggestions all the time.
Karina wants to know what advice you have for first-time bakers.
Ooh. Well, don't be afraid to mess up a little bit, because while I'm doing this, you're literally going to see me try and probably make mistakes. So I think that's just going for it and putting attempting. Sometimes I feel like people don't even want to try because they're nervous that they're going to fail. And it's like, yeah, you're going to fail. We all fail. But that's how you learn. So let's see. I might add a little bit more cake because as I look at this is slightly higher. But I'm not going to need a full thing because this this matches in height. I'm probably going to just add a little section of cake later. But this is a good start.
Some of the suggestions that have come in are very tropical. We got a dragon fruit, a kiwi, and a few votes for pineapple and strawberry.
Ooh.
So we actually have
Yeah.
strawberry and pineapple on hand.
You know-
Maybe we could do those.
Yeah, we do. I'm looking at them. We got some fruits.
And an orange for extra vitamin C.
Did you say that, or did they?
That was Wendy Sparrow's suggestion was an orange.
I like the idea of an orange. I also like the idea, I can't help but think of a kiwi and how in the world I would create that like fuzziness. You know what I mean? I'd have to think hard about that one. But I like a good challenge. All right, my cake board's messy. All right. I'm gonna add a little bit of buttercream just to get this cake to stick. And here's my front. Sorry, that was loud. Let's put it right there. So this is my Swiss buttercream. Delicious. Dave actually made this, just so you guys know. He does a lot of the baking. Dave is my husband, if you didn't know that. And he's really, really good. We were actually considering adding some baking elements to our YouTube channel. So if you guys are into that, let us know, because I do a lot of decorating, but we really don't talk too much about, cake flavors and different buttercream options, stuff like that. That might be fun. All right, we got our 2 layers.
We got a suggestion for a Prince Purple Rain cake too. That'd be pretty awesome.
Ooh, that is good.
Or make it like his guitar or something.
Yeah. The symbol.
Yeah.
Yeah, Prince is awesome. You should do that. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do now that I have the cake stacked is I'm gonna start to carve it. So if you're wondering what I'm up to, actually I'm gonna take my eggplant and keep it in the background. I'm gonna adjust this slightly so you can see. Back it up. carve out the top. So really, to do this, I'm keeping it simple. I just want to round out the edges. I say that all the time, but that's the truth. It's not that difficult of a shape. It's got a little curve here, but I don't have to get too crazy with it. You really, really just want to round out the edges. If you think too hard about it and try to get that shape in the cake immediately, then it's really hard. Cake is not exactly easy to carve. I'm going to be honest with you. So just the basic shape is what we're going for.
Alicia asked if we often freeze cakes between steps.
I wouldn't say between steps. Cake is great because it freezes really well. So like if you want to have everything done ahead of time, like we actually froze this chocolate cake, knowing that I could use it later. And I'm going to be honest, it tastes like just as good. Sometimes people think it tastes better after it's frozen. I'm not sure what the deal is with that. But in between steps, I actually don't freeze it. I do everything pretty much just one thing after the next after the next. Sometimes you have to wait until the next day, but typically I don't like waiting. And that is because I'm a little impatient.
We had a couple requests for a Minecraft cake.
Oh, okay. You know what? I really like the idea of a Minecraft cake. I don't know the characters well enough. I feel like I should play the game so that I actually know what I'm doing.
We wanted to do one that looked like Sven from
Yeah.
PewDiePie's dog.
Yeah, Sven. I at least have learned a lot about PewDiePie lately because he talked about my Baby Yoda cake in one of his videos. So then people started telling me. So I started watching his channel and I was like, I like him. And I'm like, he seems like he's a lot of fun to watch. So then we started thinking about Sven, his Minecraft dog. Maybe make a Sven.
PZ75 asked for a shout out.
PZ75? Yes. Howdy.
Somebody asked about a steak burrito cake, Chipotle style.
I like that.
That would be cool.
That would be cool too, because there's so many things. Like you can, if you think like Chipotle style, like you can mess with like the colors and what's actually on the burrito. So there's all kinds of stuff you could make. Look how messy I get, you guys. I just want you guys to know that I get really messy. I like that idea.
Somebody actually asked about an online school. Maybe one day.
Yeah. We were actually talking about. So one of the things that's really difficult to teach, like in terms of a YouTube video, because you can't have like a 5-hour-long YouTube video, or I guess you could, but it'd be a little bit strange. One of the things is bust cakes. So people like when I make people cakes, and they're always asking me to, maybe make tutorials or do classes. So that's one of those things where I'm like, maybe I'll actually do like an online tutorial where it's like start to finish, teaching you everything regarding making a bust cake. So, because I've made so many of them at this point, I've got it down. I feel like I could teach that pretty well. We'll see. I'm gonna cut this down too now.
Got some people excited about Team Duff.
Oh yeah, yes! Buddy versus Duff is so fun. I'm gonna let you guys in on a secret. I have never been so excited about the way that cakes turned out on television as I am this one. Like we made such good cakes that I'm like, you guys have only seen like the church cake, which was the first episode, but this coming Sunday at 8 Central, it'll be on Food Network. And it's dinosaur themed, which is so up my alley. So the dinosaur cake's awesome. We do like a unicorn that like farts edible glitter, which is not, I love the design, but like making it fart and everything, it's crazy. I did not partake in the mechanics of that cake, but I made it look nice. So, that one I'm really excited about. It also breathes fire and does all this other stuff. What else did we do? There's a Star Wars episode, but that's the final episode, so you're going to have to wait another 7 weeks for that one. What What else? We did an aquarium cake, which was really, really darn cool. There's all kinds of, oh my God, I love it. I'm so excited. It's such a good show. Like, I was so excited on the first episode when I saw what a good job Buddy's team did along with our team. Like, I know I was there, so I was like, I knew that our team was working really hard and doing a good job. And then when I saw their cake, I was like, oh my God, they're really, really good. So the competition was more fun. I wasn't sure how that was gonna all go down, but very, very, very fun. So excited.
Hunter wants to know how you avoid your modeling chocolate from getting so soft when you're sculpting it.
That might be the ratio of modeling chocolate to corn syrup. Mine gets pretty soft, and I want it soft, but if you want it to get hard, you just have to let it sit for maybe about a half hour or so, and it'll go back to room temperature. And that's when it'll be a bit harder. And then even more, so if you waited until the next day, it's gonna be even harder. So it gets harder with time. But you can mess with the ratio of chocolate to corn syrup. If you want a chocolate that's a little bit more firm, then you're gonna wanna use less corn syrup. And we have a video, oh no, I'm losing a piece. We have a video showing how to make modeling chocolate, and I do talk a little bit about that. Because everybody's different. Like, I don't have hot hands, but I have friends who have hot hands. And if you have hot hands, it makes handling the chocolate really difficult. And it can be too soft, and it can get messy.
Yeah, somebody mentioned the hot hands modeling chocolate.
Yeah. Hot hands is great. I think her name's Natalie, actually. But she's based in California, and she makes chocolate that's literally called hot hands. And it's great for people with hot hands.
Somebody asked if we can do the trick or treat Sam cake for YouTube. Maybe we can remake that one.
Yeah.
We didn't film it.
Yeah, I didn't film that one, but yeah, that's something I could do. Like,
Lydia.
probably when it gets a little closer, to Halloween. But I don't know. I make spooky cakes all year round. Why not? That's definitely a possibility.
Tim Maynard would like a favor so he can save it to his phone as a ringtone. You could say cutthroat cakes. You say, this is Natalie Sideserf, and this is cutthroat cakes.
This is Natalie Sideserf, and this is Cutthroat Cakes. Cutthroat Cakes. It's a good name. All right, so I have the basic shape. We're rounded out a bit. Now, if you look at I have such messy hands, but bear with me. If you look at my eggplant, you can see that one side's a little more tapered, and I didn't really do that yet, so I'm gonna add a little bit back here. This is the heavier, thicker side, and then it'll come down. Let's see. Trim away. An easier way to cut your cake too, when you won't go to actually trim it and shape it, is if the cake's cold. My cake is not cold. Again, it's just because I'm impatient. But if you chill your cake, it's going to be more firm. It won't slide around. It'll be much more solid. So that's a nice thing to do, especially if you're starting out. I just get impatient. I'm just used to cake by now that I know what it's going to do. But if you're ever having a problem with that.
We received a $5 donation.
Oh my God.
Donation.
Really?
From Food Network star Gianpaolo Fiorino.
Yes. Gianpaolo, woo! Our first donation. Food Network star. So good. Soon to be Food Network star. Let's see. Sorry guys, I'm grabbing more cake off camera. I'm gonna have to get a whole production crew next time so that I can have cameras on me at all times. No, I'm not promising anything.
We also got a $1.99 donation as a favor to tell everyone how handsome he is from a gentleman named Brett Bryson.
Brett Bryson is so handsome. Thank you, Brett. gonna make me laugh. I'm not gonna be able to handle this. Okay, it's perfect. No, let me turn this down. Oh goodness.
It's funny because from this angle it looks more like a shoe.
I hope it doesn't look like a shoe by the end of it. Oh no. Alright, so I could have made that thinner and probably made my life easier, but here I am.
We're probably gonna have this eggplant for dinner.
Yeah, the real one. And the cake one.
Yeah. Dinner and dessert.
What a mess. What a mess. Oops. Alright. Another thing that you can do, if you want to bulk up areas, say I didn't have that piece of cake, I use what I call cake clay. I talk about it quite a bit in my videos. It's just the same stuff that you make cake balls out of. So with all these scraps that I have, I can just add a little icing and make cake clay and plop it on and shape it. And people either don't know the difference or they prefer it sometimes because it has a little bit of a different texture than cake. It's just nice instead of using like Rice Krispie treats or something like that, you can use the cake scraps. You know, I'm gonna make this a little more dramatic. There we go. Okay, I need to clean up clearly, so I'm gonna do that. I want eggplant parmesan if you're taking requests, Dave. Dave's the cook around here, so. It's just an eggplant. Sorry, it makes me laugh. First timer giggles, I guess.
Lydia said that she made the Deadpool cake, pretty cool, and she used the cake clay for the thumb.
Oh, nice. See? That's a perfect way to use it. Because carving out a little thumb out of cake is, it's a bummer. We'll just say that. It's a pain because it's so small. That's a great way to use the cake clay for sure. Much easier. Okay, I don't need my parchment anymore.
Kyle Liptak, class of 03, Brunswick.
Hey!
Said,
Oh no, now everyone knows my age. I'm just kidding.
He said, good job on all the cakes and congrats to the shows you've been on so far.
Thank you. That's really nice. Yeah, Brunswick is my hometown in Ohio. I live in Austin now, but grew up in Brunswick. Okay, so I'm just adding a crumb coat. So this is just that same buttercream. And I'm taking an offset spatula and I am just covering the cake. You want to do this because a couple reasons. It seals in the moisture so your cake won't dry out, but also this gives us a nice smooth surface when we go to add that final layer of modeling chocolate. You could also use, fondant for this one for sure. I feel like I always say this, but I have a lot of modeling chocolate around. It's what I like using. It's what I'm used to using, so that's why I use it. People like the taste, all that fun stuff. So I use modeling chocolate. I'm gonna try to get all the way in there. All the way to the bottom.
We got Zahava said that we should make a realistic panini maker cake. So not the panini itself, but the machine. For folding the panini.
I like that. Why not? I like making metal. I honestly do. I like to recreate different textures. So if something was like made of like metal, I can make like a metallic effect. I love doing that stuff. Like when things are gold or silver or bronze or whatever. It's fun.
Anna said that she found us because of the dead head cakes, which I assume is probably our
Oh yeah,
wedding cake.
that is our wedding cake, which is funny because not everybody knows that. Like that was us. Of course, I used to have brown hair. Now I have blonde hair, so that kind of confuses the whole thing. But anyway, Dave and I got married, and our wedding cake was our severed heads.
It was a movie theater.
Yeah, we were married in a movie theater around Halloween, and we were referencing like kind of old horror movies. So we made our severed head. So if you Google severed head wedding cake, or just severed head cake probably at this point, you will find it. Some people loved it and some people hated it. Whoops. Look it. See? I already stabbed the cake. This stuff happens to me all the time. I don't always get everything right away.
Wendy asked where you went to art school.
Sorry, I'm just grabbing a scraper. So I went to Ohio State. So I didn't go to an art school per se, but I did go for art. But it was just like a state school. It was a great, like, I loved it. The classes were awesome, and I think that the thing that I got the most out of it was that I was experimenting with different materials, which I had no idea was going to be such an important thing for me. Like, because I didn't know how to use cake, I had to teach myself. So it was the same thing. Like, I taught myself. In school, they give you the gist of things, but really, they're, you know, you're kind of figuring it out on your own by using the materials. So when I use plaster, they go, okay, you mix these materials together and you make, you know, a plaster sculpture. But there's a lot of just figuring it out on your own. And I think that I really had to utilize that kind of mindset when it came to cake. So look at that. I used my art degree, you guys.
What is plaster of Paris?
The plaster that you use. Did somebody ask?
No.
Oh.
Is it Parisian? Is it really Parisian?
You're such a... Yes, it's Parisian plaster. maybe they'll reach out to us now that we're name dropping that.
Who, the Parisians?
No, Plaster of Paris is a brand
of
plaster. I believe. I guess I could be wrong. I always thought it was, but could be wrong.
I thought it was more of a cultural thing.
You are... He's joking, I think. Look at this. All right, this is when I really have to clean the board. So now, again, this is a time where if you want to put the cake in the fridge so it's a little more firm, you can do that. I'm going to leave mine at room temperature. And I'm leaving mine at room temperature because I'm going to use modeling chocolate, and I want my modeling chocolate to be soft enough that when I blend the pieces together, they blend easily. If your chocolate's hard and you try to blend those seams where the two pieces of chocolate meet, it's going to be more difficult because hard chocolate is harder to blend. Soft chocolate would be softer to blend. Not softer, easier to blend. All right, so I'm going to move this. We'll bring it back in a minute. Oh, messy. Oh. Usually nobody's watching me be messy, except for Dave. But I don't mind if he thinks I'm messy. It's modeling chocolate time. So I need a mat. You can use parchment too, but this won't slide when I roll out my chocolate. I need this. All right. So I'm going to explain to you all. I don't know if you can see it actually. So are you able to see like these tones in here that are a little bit more like pink? Or is it just really dark? They're in there. There's like a slight one right here. So in person, you can see these much better. But the actual eggplant has areas that are slightly lighter and then some that are really, really dark purple. So what I do when I make cakes, I feel like if I was in the shadow, there, that's a little bit, right? Well, anyway, my point is, I'm going to color my chocolate the lightest color of this eggplant. So I'm going to color it this kind of reddish, pinkish, purplish color so that I can go in and paint the darker colors and let some of these light colors kind of show through. I wish that I had one that was a little clearer on camera, but you can trust me that there's some purple and light colors in there. So that being said, I already colored some. To color modeling chocolate, you can use gel food color. It doesn't have to be, I know you think chocolate, you might think you have to have special food color, but because this is modeling chocolate and there's corn syrup in there, you don't have to worry about using oil-based food color like if you were coloring just chocolate. If I was coloring just chocolate, you got to use oil-based food color, but because this is modeling chocolate, you can use water-based. So that's nice. So you just use gel food color, little drops. This is some purple mixed with some red. And this actually matches these really light, I'm going to call them like striations that you probably can't see, but they exist, I promise. Maybe I'll get, like, when I'm done, I'll like post some photos where you can see them better. All right. So sometimes your modeling chocolate too will get little chunks. It's kind of just the nature of modeling chocolate. It's never perfect. They're soft. You can either smash them out or you can just pick them out. It happens.
Tim Maynard asked if Duff Goldman is actually a cool dude.
He is. I love Duff. He's super fun. He's super nice. He has fun ideas. He's very like relaxed. Like he doesn't relaxed in terms of like when I was working with him, he's just kind of like, whatever you think looks good, which is nice. He wasn't like at all like, do it this way. He would make suggestions and vice versa. And like, we learned stuff from each other. There were some times where he was like, I had never done it like that. And then he would learn something from me and then I would learn from him. And then the whole team was learning from each other. It was really cool. But yeah, he's awesome. He's super, super fun. Also, Buddy. Got to hang out with Buddy a bit, even though we weren't on the same team, and he's awesome too. Like, he was really fun. I kind of picked his brain a little bit. He has a lot of cool, ideas in terms of his bakery, and like, just how he works with cake and sells cakes and all kinds of fun stuff. He's awesome.
So what is that, your cornstarch?
Yes, sorry guys, I didn't explain that. This is cornstarch, and that's because my modeling chocolate's a bit sticky, and this will keep the chocolate from sticking to your hands and sticking to the rolling pin.
Now, why do you use cornstarch instead of powdered sugar?
Did you ask that or did they?
That's my question.
Oh, good call. So I use cornstarch because it works just as well, but it doesn't give you sticky hands. Like when you can definitely use powdered sugar, and if that's what you have on hand, like definitely use it. But you are going to get a little sticky. Any bit of moisture on the powdered sugar is going to be a bit messy. This is just slightly cleaner. So rolling out modeling chocolate is different than fondant. It's a little more forgiving. I can let things kind of goof up and it's fine. Oh yeah, can you do that for me? Sorry, my phone is gonna die.
Do it.
First timers. Next time I'll remember. So a lot of people ask me about covering the cakes in modeling chocolate. And I think the trick is if you're having issues, try to keep your cake at room temperature, like I was talking about earlier. I think that's like a big part of it. You want it to be soft. If it's too hard, you're gonna have some issues. Like if it'll cool. So when you put the modeling chocolate on a cold cake, it will cool and firm up pretty quickly. So I try to keep it at room temperature. It's actually a little warm in here. Maybe a little too warm, but
Really?
You would disagree?
I'm cold.
Well, I'm moving around, I guess.
Lusa asked if you have a favorite cake flavor.
Ooh, that's a good question. You know what? I honestly just like everything chocolate. I like dark chocolate. I like it nice and bitter. So really, I go chocolate, and I love chocolate ganache. It's so simple. It's just heavy cream and chocolate, but the texture is awesome. And I just really, really like the rich taste. So I'm a chocolate person. What about you, Dave?
I think I'm a berry person.
You're a berry?
I think I like berries.
You're a berry
Strawberries, blueberries, blackberries,
Oh, I like that
boysenberries.
too, but like boysenberry. I like a chocolate covered
Raspberry.
strawberry.
All berries.
Berryman. Oh no! I got a little bit of the leaf from the eggplant on there.
Mira asked about condensation when it comes to modeling chocolate. That's a pretty good question, especially with refrigeration, right?
Yes, that's another one where I have to admit I try my hardest to have my customers pick flavors that I don't have to refrigerate because it's so much easier to keep the cake out of the fridge. So you can control your refrigerator's moisture by like buying things that are expensive. I don't do that. I just try my hardest to keep the cake at room temperature because cake can be held at room temperature unless you're using fresh fruit. So that's what I do because that's when it's the best. I wish I had a better answer, but it will bead up. If I put this in the fridge with the modeling chocolate on it, it is going to get a little tacky and beat up. What I would do is just don't touch it and let it get back to room temperature. It's all about, really, modeling chocolate is all about room temperature versus cold versus warm. You're like constantly having to mess with the temperature because it's chocolate.
Is that a benefit to modeling chocolate versus fondant at all, or are they kind of the same?
The thing about modeling chocolate is at room temperature, it's pretty firm. Like I can knock on some, like what we got here? Let's bring this guy in here. Wait, oh man. Let me see if I can move it. Going off the cuff here. I want to move that anyway. So here I have Baby Yoda. I'm actually teaching this in Austin. It's going to be a live class. But we have Baby Yoda, and Baby Yoda is made of modeling chocolate. And if you just like, yes, this one is a little bit older, but after about a day or two, you can like knock on this. It stays, you know, like pretty hard. So if this was fondant, no way. It would never harden, you know, as firm as this is. So that's another reason why I like modeling chocolate. I can pick this baby up, his head, this baby up, he's literally a baby. And I can like turn it on its side and it like stays, it's super firm. Obviously nobody's eating this in case you guys are wondering. This one's an example, so I'm touching it up. But yeah, it'll stay nice and firm. He looks so tired in this lighting. There we go. But yeah, also you got the gelatin eyes in there. I have a tutorial on how to make those too. They're not as shiny as they once were, but that's because he's a few weeks old. Like a real baby.
He's 50.
I know, he's 50. Everybody keeps telling me that. I'm like, but everybody else calls him Baby Yoda. If I called him 50-year-old Yoda, nobody would ever find it. All right, one more clean. Before I put the modeling chocolate, I do want to make sure that everything is nice and clean, because if I get those cake crumbs in there, it's a pain to get them out. So let's keep it clean.
How thick do you usually roll the modeling chocolate?
That's another good question. Let's see. Let me cut off a piece for you so I can show you, because I don't know measurements well enough. All right. I'm about to cover the cake, but I have a modeling chocolate rolled out yay thick. So I don't actually have a roll or anything. I'm not even sure. Maybe an eighth of an inch. Well, anyway, I typically work with it about this thickness, and sometimes I'll add if I need to. And then I think that this is actually really great, though, because you can get a lot of like texture and a lot of sculpting out of it just at this thickness. And that's where all my details come. I would rarely make it any thinner and rarely thicker. I think this is my go-to size. I like this color. All right, so I'm gonna come over and I'm gonna cover the cake. Let's see how this goes. I'm running out of table space. You gotta be quick with it, because it will stretch a bit, but I'm just gonna place it over top. I always like to have plenty. And all you have to do is very similar to fondant, is you wanna work it over the edges. So what's gonna happen in the back is I'm not gonna be able to work this down the side, but what I can do is I can just kind of like pinch it together. You don't want to pull it because it will tear and create holes. Instead, I'm just going to pinch it and like almost push into the cake. And then I can trim this away and blend it. This would also be, this cake is being made for like me and Dave, but a good thing to do would be to wear gloves while you're doing this. So if it's sticky, the gloves make it much easier. Your hands are going to be stickier than what gloves would be. So. And I'm just going to trim that away and blend it later. All this extra, maybe a little bit too much extra. I'm always so bad at guessing how much to use. I'm gonna work on that. It's only been 8 years of making cakes and I still can't figure that out, so.
Voodoo asked where we get the modeling chocolate. I can post a link.
Yeah, Dave will post a link, that sounds good. I use Chocopan or I make my own. So we have a link where you can make your own. That's gonna be your cheaper option. It does take a little time to get used to making it, but honestly, it's just 2 ingredients. And once you figure it out, you got it. But if you just wanna purchase some, because you're like, I don't feel like putting the effort into that, I use Chocopan a lot of times. Chocopan, you can get, I believe it's at satnice.com, but Chocopan's great too. It's a bit on the softer side. All right, so this is still nice and soft, this chocolate, because I had to knead it. So when I was kneading it before I rolled it out, it made it soft. So it's still pretty soft. And I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna trim away a little bit more and start to blend. You wanna do that while it's soft. So if I would not wanna refrigerate this at this point. Then I just take a tool with a flat side. So whether it's a pointy or one of these guys, I'm just gonna go in and I'm gonna like roll it onto the cake. See, sometimes, but see, like this looks, this isn't looking that good, but that's the nature of it. That's why I like modeling chocolate, because I can go in and fix this and make it look nice. With fondant, that's a little bit trickier. And it's not that I hate fondant. Sometimes I use fondant. It's just, I'm just much more comfortable with modeling chocolate. I make mistakes and I know that it's forgiving. I'm actually gonna get some gloves on. More globes. These are in high demand right now. I like to use my gloves. I use the palm of my hand and I can smooth it out. You can use your fingers. Smooth it out. See, I got that little hole. No big deal.
How long does modeling chocolate last, typically?
You know what?
Lydia.
That's a good question, too. Honestly, it probably says on these buckets. I go through them so quickly that I've never had it go bad. But I know it lasts a long time because all it is chocolate. Essentially, there's a few things, but chocolate and corn syrup. So if you make it yourself, it's going to last you. Like, I'm pretty sure the ones that you buy last like at least a year. As long as it's covered and like sealed up in the container that they give it to you. But so that's kind of tough. I don't want to give an exact number because I'm not 100% sure, but it does last a long time. You gotta make sure it's nice and sealed though. That's the thing. If you let it dry out, that's no good.
Are there any high-level, like, basic tips for modeling chocolate? Probably one of them is that, I guess, when to use it versus fondant, right? Because modeling chocolate's going to blend easier.
Yeah, for sure. I think I use fondant if I want something to look soft. So totally with this one, you could definitely use fondant for this. You would cover it. Fondant stretches more, so you would be able to work it over the edges and then cut off the skirt. You wouldn't need to do this whole thing at the back. And it's easier to paint too when you hand paint. So there are some like perks definitely to fondant. The only thing with fondant, and the reason that I typically don't use it, is because when I'm doing things like adding texture or hair, think of modeling chocolate more as like Play-Doh or clay. You can put pieces together and blend them. Fondant isn't going to blend as easily. It's more like, I always say it's kind of like putting marshmallows together and trying to blend marshmallows. Like it just doesn't blend nearly as easily.
Could you seal a gap of 2 pieces of fondant with a layer of modeling chocolate, like spackle or something?
You know what? I actually have done something similar in the past when I did used to use, like I used fondant on the body of a unicorn, and then the head was modeling chocolate, and I had to make them blend, and the modeling chocolate does blend onto the fondant, but you have to make sure your colors match, and it's not going to be like super perfect. But that's the thing with my cakes too. If you're trying to make something look perfect, then I'm not the person to learn from, because I'm fine with having like little mistakes. I don't even call them mistakes, just like little imperfections. I actually kind of enjoy them. So, you know, if you're one of those people who are like, I need this to be absolutely perfect, you would probably want to stick to just either modeling chocolate or fondant. But I'm fine with mixing the two. You can literally mix them together too, which is cool. Like you could take half modeling chocolate and half fondant, and you'll get this like modeling chocolate fondant hybrid. And I used to work with that a lot in the past too. Fondant's a little bit cheaper, so it stretches your chocolate out a little more. I'm gonna try to pick up the pace. Sorry, guys. So I'm just tucking the chocolate underneath with any of the tools that I have that are kind of pointy. This one's a pointy guy. Got stuff on there.
Randy says it looks a little uterus-like.
Oh, ladies. If you could see me, I'm blushing. All right, I'm getting close. It's funny because the cakes do go through some phases. Sometimes they look real strange. Especially the bus cakes. Those look wild. I have that prison Mike cake video on YouTube. And that one's pretty fun. That one's more of like a process video, but it is funny to see it go through like the different stages as you start to paint it. Looks much better at the end. All right, so this end is actually going to have a green stem, I would say. And it has a green stem, so I'm not going to worry too much about making it perfect again.
Voodoo Doll asks what your favorite cake you've made so far was.
Oh my goodness. You know, I gotta go wedding cake. What do you think?
Favorite one?
I think it's my favorite because my wedding cake is the reason that I've had opportunities to do things. So I guess in an emotional way, I think it's like my favorite because like my wedding cake is the first time I was ever on Food Network and did TV. It was the first time that people, well, I guess Willie Nelson cake was the first time people really recognized one of my cakes, but I have so many favorites. I also really like the bust cake of, what's his name?
Mike Ehrmantraut.
Yeah, Mike Ehrmantraut, because Mike Ehrmantraut is from Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. He's a character, so I made a bust for a commercial for AMC, and I was actually in the commercial, which was cool because it aired during the Walking Dead premiere, and everybody saw me, even though I was only on for like a half a second. No, it's like a second or two. But that cake, he actually went on Conan O'Brien, the actor, and he thanked me on Conan. So if you haven't seen that video, we have it on our Instagram under press, I think, or something. One of those. We should post it again because that's a really cool video. He actually thanked me for the cake. He's like, I never got to thank her for this. So Natalie Sideserf, thank you so much for making this cake, which was very unexpected and awesome. So
Randy asked if Willie Nelson saw his cake.
you would know better than me, right?
Yeah, his granddaughter did email us shortly after it kind of went viral, and he did see it and he did enjoy it, but unfortunately he didn't get to eat any of it.
Yeah. A lot of times we don't get to. Well, actually, Mike Ehrmantraut, somebody in his family wanted me to make a cake for his birthday after they saw the cake, but I couldn't do it. I don't remember exactly what was going on, but I couldn't fly out to where he was, so sort of a bummer. But that was a cool one. Really. All right. Sometimes I pick the cakes up completely and just wrap the chocolate around them. This one's a little too large, so I'm not gonna do it. But that is like an easier way to get all the chocolate on there rather than working it around the edges. All right. Cool. Not so bad. So this is my side. And I can always blend it out more later, but that's pretty good for now. And here. Not too different.
Here's a good question from Honks.
Honks.
How do you know what color base to use on the chocolate and to build that color? How do you determine that?
Good call. That is tricky. So, oh, I got pink on my eggplant. Typically, I like to find the lightest color on the object, and I'm going to make, in this case, it's this pink color, depending on what we have, like, what do we have around? We have like here, I'm gonna get a banana. That was easier. We're making banana bread, so this banana's very ripe. But the point is, like, I want to make this like the lightest color yellow on here. And so there's like these darker areas, and it gets a little bit green down here, but I ignore that. I want to find that really light yellow, which is actually probably right here. So I see that this is nice and light. So I'm going to make my chocolate that color because it looks much better painting in the darker areas rather than painting in highlights. When you paint in highlights, it just doesn't look quite as real. So that's how I do that. When it comes to actually color matching, that is a tough one. That takes a lot of practice. But honestly, your best friend is like the color wheel. So if you can literally get a color wheel, if you could take a class on color theory, that would be awesome. And maybe one day I'll be able to like do a little, like just talk about colors and I can make a video about how I match these colors. Because I started with purple. The purple was more of like a bluish purple, so I had to add a lot of red to get it this color. So I even did add a little bit of green, or yellow to this, just to muddy the color. So the reason you use yellow is because yellow is on the opposite side of the color wheel. So there's just like a lot to it, and I could go on and on talking about it. I find it really interesting, actually. And maybe I will. It's like, if you guys think that that's interesting, I could definitely talk about, like, you know, in a future video, I could mention like how I try to color match. And sometimes I'm more successful than others, but it does take some practice for sure. Plus, when you think, like, purple's not just purple, you know? Sometimes purple has more pink or red, and sometimes it has more blue. Sometimes it's a little gray. They're all different, and all the brands are different too. So I know that's a bummer, right? Wish it was an easier answer. All right, we got our eggplant. I'm gonna actually sit now. All right. Bring it down. Sorry. I want to get a better angle. So next I'm going to start working on the stem, and I already colored some chocolate. And again, I'm going for the lightest green that I can find in this stem, which is probably like within here. I could probably go a little darker maybe, but I'd rather paint in some of those more vibrant greens and start with something that's more of like a very light version of the green. So this one's gonna be a little tricky because I'm not 100% sure how I want to approach it, but we'll see.
We have some questions from Buttface McGee. The first question is how many cakes you've made so far this year in 2020, and another is wafer paper something you would use for the leaf on this eggplant?
Okay, so
That's from Buttface McGee.
Buttface McGee, what a name! What a great name! I can tell Dave likes it. So wafer paper would be an option. And I think like, especially for these really thin little areas, you could definitely use some wafer paper. And I think it would be effective. You would want to place it like directly on here and then cut it out and mess with it. Make sure, kind of like how we did the onion, only you would, which we have a video of if you haven't seen it, where I wet the wafer paper, I place it over top, and then I trim it around. I think that would look awesome. I'm not gonna do that today, but honestly, that would be a really great way to approach this. And that's the thing too, like, there's no definite way to do anything. You can, if you don't have a material around, there's always a way to still create the effect, you know, using different materials. But I am going to use just chocolate for this one. And I'm not exactly sure how I'm gonna add these stripes, but we'll see. What was the second part of that question?
The other part
It was
how many cakes you've made this year so far.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, at least once a week, and then
At least once a week, and then like the giant ones on Buddy versus Duff. Those count.
and Duff take the cake.
Yeah. Oh, I'm also doing another thing that that I can't really tell you too much about, but it's more TV stuff. So once that happens, I can tell you guys about it more.
But you could probably mention Chopped Sweets on April 9th.
I don't know if I can. Oh well. Yeah, I can. So that's also another thing. I just have a bunch of TV stuff coming up that we haven't talked about yet, and that's exciting. So basically, I've been out of town a lot. So any cakes that I've made have either been for YouTube and a couple customer cakes and then a bunch of TV stuff. So it's been a weird year for sure. Like, it's not typical. It would normally be a higher number of cakes for customers, but right now it's like lots of TV. Because Buddy versus Duff is 8 weeks, so we had to film. There's 8 episodes, so we filmed for 8 weeks. And that's a good chunk of your life when you think about it. So I spent a lot of time doing that and doing the other TV stuff. So I wish I knew how many. Not as much as I usually make, but bigger, that's for sure. Oops. You know, I just had a change of heart. No, I have a change of plans. I actually want to paint this before I add the green so that I don't have to worry about not touching the green versus the purple. See, sometimes I I just switch things up. Does that
That's
make
a good
sense?
idea.
Yeah, then I can go all the way down and I don't have to worry about trying not to get purple on my green. Sometimes I typically like to paint all at once and then sculpt all at once and then paint all at once. But in this case, I think this will be a better way to do it. But I do want to shape the eggplant. Oh, I can do this part. Let's do this side instead. His bum. Do I have a ball tool? I don't know if I do. This'll do. So I'm gonna just smoosh this around a little bit. There's really not too much shape to the eggplant. It's pretty basic. Maybe a little dent here. So modeling chocolate's cool too because you can just push right into it and it'll stay. So fondant will usually not keep its shape quite as easily. This is super subtle, but. So I'm gonna add my little dot for the bottom of the stem. I'm gonna push in. These gloves are just a little too big.
This eggplant has an outie.
It's about to have a bit of an innie outie. I don't even know. Let's see. It's not like terribly textured. This is pretty simple actually. So I'm just gonna go around and add a little line. With the chocolate that's already there, no need to add more.
It's like watching a surgeon.
Right? Got my gloves on. It does have a little bit of an outie now. And I want to add some texture. It seems like it's just like little holes, kind of. So instead of using a tool, here we go. I'm actually going to use a paintbrush to add that texture because it's so fine. And this is kind of hard bristled, so it'll be nice. It'll just be a little less dramatic than if I go in with a tool. So I don't know if you guys can see that. And I know this seems very like small, but honestly, like all the little things are what make it look good, make it look realistic. So even though this seems like it might not be that important, it actually does matter. Even the littlest of texture. And it doesn't take that long, so. All right, this is a little bum. I see that this kind of has like a ring around it if you get the right angle. It's like dented in and it comes out a little, so I'm gonna copy that. I'm just gonna work the chocolate towards the front a little more. It's super subtle.
Mira asked about cake fails. We've had one, or any.
Remember that one time when I was trying to move, I made, what was that? It was, Courage the Cowardly Dog. Remember, I was trying to pick it up and move it, and the whole thing like started to
that's
tip
right.
over. And you even were like, whoa. And part of it did get dented. It fell on a table, luckily, so it didn't, I could still save it. But that was a bummer because it was like, it completely tipped over and smashed part of its face after I spent all that time making it. So I had to remake like half of its face.
That Water to Thrive one a long time ago was a pretty tough one too.
Yes.
Because that was made too big for the car. We didn't realize it at the time.
Yeah. That seems to be a common thing for people who are just starting out. They make cakes and they're like, oh, this is fine, but they don't think about transporting them. And then next thing you know, you like can't get your cake in the car. So we had to borrow a friend's car. It was a hassle and a half. But we did get it there. But there were a lot of things about it that I wish I did differently just because I was just new. I had a lot to learn. And you can't like get all that information from anywhere really. You just have to have it happen to you. I guess that's advice. Try to make sure your cake fits in the car. Duh. All right. We got a little pear butt. Close. Really what you want to do is try to make this approximately the same size as this. It's all about size. As long as they're close in size, then you're good. I feel like we always tend to sculpt things a little too large. And I'm not going for exact. Like, I'm just going for about the same size and not even really the same shape. Just kind of what I feel like. 'Cause I'm not trying to make this exact one. I'm just trying to use it as a reference. It'll take me all day if I try to make it perfect. All right, let's paint it.
I would recommend painting it purple.
Thank you. That's a great recommendation, Dave. Dave says make it purple.
What would you do without me?
I know.
Probably paint it red.
I know. Make it red. Probably make it red. Let's see how this goes. This is another one where I'm not exactly sure how this is going to work out. I'm not sure what color and all that stuff. Let's see. So here I have I'm actually using lemon extract because I have it. You can use any kind of alcohol as long as it's clear and it's strong, or you can use extracts. You can use water, but it's a little bit difficult. So extract's the way to go. But you can. You just got to figure it out. Water is not ideal if you're painting chocolate, to be honest, but not impossible. All right, I got purple. Purple. I think I need more of that. Yellow.
Purple and yellow.
Oh yeah. So, what am I doing? I might need blue. I can't tell yet. I have all the answers. I'm gonna definitely need red. And I might need white.
This is almost Bob Ross style.
Right? Bobby. I'll add a little white. So I'm gonna add a little yellow. That's gonna muddy my purple. Whoa, that's too much. See, it makes like a brown. So that means I overdid it. Let me take some.
Is that a Van Dyke brown?
It's a Dick Van Dyke brown. No, I don't, that's like the best way to make browns, honestly. Oops, I went my water. Is to put complementary colors together. what were browns? Van Dyke Brown. Burnt Sienna, I think that's one.
Wendy asked how long it takes for the paint to dry, food coloring I should say, and does it dry slower if the cake is cold?
I don't think that it dries slower, but it dries pretty quickly, honestly. If I had to guess, like, I mean, we can kind of see now, I'd say like completely dry after a few hours, but I can still layer up colors like pretty quickly. So it doesn't stay like tacky wet very long. So what I like about, I'm using a brush where you can kind of see the brush strokes, but that actually works because if you look at the this guy, you can see that there are like kind of these like lines going up and down. Again, you probably can't see them, which is a bit of a bummer, but I want those lines to show, which is great because I can just use the brush strokes and allow that just to happen naturally by the brush strokes. So I don't have to worry too much. So I'm going to build up color. Let's start here. It's like, got birds.
Looks kind of light.
It does look light. It will get darker as I paint layers.
Oh man, that's smooth.
Smooth. Like, what did I do? I just did that fish sandwich, and that was kind of how it went with the bun. Like, I like to go in with like a solid color. Well, not a solid color, but I like to get a color on and then start to darken it. I don't want to just go in like super dark immediately.
It's probably harder to dial back darker colors than it is to add more darker colors, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like once it's pretty dark, you got to go back in and like try your hardest to pick up color, which you can do with water, but it is a pain. I'd rather just kind of darken it as I go. So keep it pretty light and then go in and add dark.
And are you using alcohol for this?
So this one is extract.
Extract.
Yeah.
You're right.
All right. Let's go.
Amanda asked she asked how you correct using the wrong colors, and it's actually a pretty good question because I wonder if you're using alcohol, let's say, like rather than water, is it more difficult to remove because alcohol dries faster than water?
Yeah, actually, let me see if I can probably show you. So if I just use the alcohol and I'm trying to pick up color because I'm like, I don't like this spot, it needs to be lighter.
That's a good impression.
Yeah.
Good impression of yourself.
Yeah, I know, that's how I sound. So I'm like, oh, hang on, let me get some of this on here. If I want to pick up some color, what you can do, let me grab a Carol. All kinds of sounds. So what I would do to pick up color is I would dip a little bit, either a brush or a paper towel in water, and then you can go in and pick it up. And we're already pretty quickly back to the original shade that's underneath. If you do that with alcohol, it doesn't pick up as easily. So that's actually kind of like a nice way to erase on cakes when you're hand painting them. You want to use water to pick up color. Now let's cover it back up. And that's a thing too, like I mess up all the time and I switch things and I work on them. Like look how easy that was to make it, you know, look solid again. Like it's really not that big of a deal. I think when we make mistakes, it's just kind of like figure out a way to make it work. And don't get too down on yourself about it. I feel like people sometimes get nervous about it. Ooh, still stinks. A little strong. All right, so to make this a little bit less translucent, I want it to be more opaque. So opaque being not see-through. I'm gonna add some white food color, and the white helps with that.
I have a couple questions as to what cake took the longest to make and what cake was the hardest. And are those two things the same cake?
You know, that's a really good question. What is the most, I would say my prison mite cake took the longest. And the reason for that is because I was replicating an exact face, an exact facial expression in the show. So it was definitely, like, I wanted it to look just like it. So that one was really tricky. Now, if I'm trying to make a cake look like someone, which I do on Buddy versus Duff, which is fun, I was making it look like someone, but not like a particular face she was making. It was just more like, you know, in general, what she looks like. That's going to take less time. So that one took the longest. Was the other one the size?
What's the most difficult?
The most difficult. That one probably is the most difficult. Yeah. Honestly, it's crazy. Never really thought about that one. Ooh.
Are larger cakes always tougher? Probably not.
Not necessarily. They're more of a pain in a sense that, you know, you're working. They're nice to work on because they're large, and sculpting large, I personally think, is a little bit easier than sculpting really small. However, you know, moving them around, they eventually have a place they need to be. And also building the structure to hold them up is a lot more heavy duty. So instead of like using maybe a wooden dowel, I would have to use like a metal rod or something really, really strong. And that can get pretty frustrating. But they're just different. I wouldn't say that one's really better than the other. I enjoy making all cakes, to be honest. Any size.
Chad asked why I'm so handsome.
Why Dave's so handsome?
Yeah.
God,
It's
I don't
a trick
know.
question.
That is. I wonder who Chad is.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Who's Chad? Dave, I don't know. You tell me. Because your long hair?
That must be it.
His long, luscious hair. His flowing locks. Dave has long hair.
Keep it very clean, very, I don't know, very well done.
Well done. I like your short hair too. It's been a while. How long have you been growing out your hair? It's been forever.
Since filming 2017-ish, something
Wow.
like that.
It's crazy. Oops. That was a long time ago.
Amor wants to know how long it typically takes to decorate cakes, and that all depends. But it doesn't always, if the cake is smaller, it doesn't always necessarily take less time.
Yeah,
right?
that's true, for sure. Sometimes I get things right away, and then sometimes, no matter what size or what's going on, I just can't seem to get it right. And when that happens, you know, you just got to keep trying, or even step away from it and go back to it later. But sometimes I catch things right away, and sometimes they take time. It's weird. It's weird because I can't tell. Like, I never know which one I'm going to get. So it's weird. I think, and everybody's different. We all have different brains, right? All right, I'm gonna add a little black.
PZ has asked again what our favorite cake is, or what your favorite cake is. I think what did you say before? It was the Mike Urban Trap, but there were a few. The wedding cake was your favorite.
Yeah, I love the wedding cake. I think that it was neat because it allowed us to do more fun things. Like the wedding cake got a lot of people's attention, which helped me definitely do more things and have more opportunities.
Julie actually asked earlier if we got married in Ohio, but no, we got married here in Texas.
We did. Yeah, we got married in Austin, Texas, at the Alamo Draft House. So this is the purple with a little bit of black, which is nice because if you know anything about gel food color, this particular brand actually uses purple to make their black. So I lucked out.
Karina had to level the playing field here. Now she says that you're pretty.
Thank you. See? Now we both got a compliment. This was a great idea. Now I feel better about myself. I was nervous to stream. Live stream is kind of like, it's a little intimidating. You're not sure what's going to happen. So far, nothing crazy happened, so that's good.
Yeah, mostly with just setting it up.
Yeah.
It's because you're always afraid you're going to go live without knowing that you're live.
Right, and then it's me being like, complaining.
Do you plan on putting a coating over this to make it shiny or keep it matte? It's pretty matte, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got like it's sort of shiny. I was thinking about that. We'll see how it dries, and I may end up adding a little bit of like a really, really thin layer of shortening, because the shortening will give it kind of like, it's almost like in between a high gloss. It's like an eggshell, like when you buy paint and you can buy high gloss, eggshell is like in the middle, and then there's matte. So it's kind of like nice because it's right in between. So I was thinking about adding that maybe, but I'm not sure yet. I haven't decided. I make this up as I go if you didn't notice.
Wendy asked about our favorite, craziest flavor.
Ooh, what is our... you made that smoked ganache once, like with a smoker, right?
Yeah, with an infusion smoker.
It was really
smoked
cool.
Honey. And then the cake was flavored. We did rosemary.
Mm-hmm.
So to make the rosemary cake, we steeped fresh rosemary in the milk, and then used milk in the recipe. And then for the ganache, we used white chocolate with some honey, and then put it in a container with an infusion smoker, and it literally smoked the ganache. And so it was this really like woodsy kind of flavor that was a little bit savory, but it was also very sweet. It was really, really good, and also very strange.
Yeah, and it was for the Museum of the Weird, so if you were wondering, it was strange because it should be strange for them, and they wanted something unique. And then it also made sense because that was we made the Minnesota Iceman cake.
Yeah.
Which is like kind of like a man who's trapped in ice. Like a what are they called? Like the snowman guy?
Abominable? He was abominable.
Abominable. The snowman. It's like one of those kind of urban legends. So it was like this guy, this furry guy in the ice, the Iceman.
But we recently came across a recipe that's got tomato soup in it.
Yes.
So maybe we'll try and do something. Maybe we'll try and film that and use that in one of our upcoming videos, and start to include more baking.
Yeah. Because we have all kinds of fun flavors. And we usually don't put it up because there's already so much going on with the decorating, but we think we can do both. I think we've got a new goal. We want to try to do both because we think the flavors are just as interesting, and we can put out some really cool recipes, the good stuff. So I'm going to let this dry a bit before I add like even darker colors. So while I do that, I think I'll probably mess with the stem.
Randy asked if we have any pictures of the Minnesota Iceman, which we don't have any. They're very tough to come by.
They are.
But he was on an episode of Unsolved Mysteries a while back in the early 90s, maybe the mid to late 80s.
Yeah. If you look up Minnesota Iceman, you'll find these very blurry, crazy photos of him. It's an interesting story. Oops, I missed a spot. Get that real quick. See, I got some buttercream in there. Who cares?
Who cares?
Who cares? This is for eating. You want to eat buttercream.
Mary asked if confectioner's glaze can be used on modeling chocolate.
You know what? I think so. I have recently used confectioner's glaze. And
what is confectioner's glaze?
That's a good question. I'm not incredibly familiar with it. I used it while I was on Buddy vs. Duff, and I want to use it more. It's like a great way to add like shine to stuff. So it's kind of like the way that I use piping gel for so long.
Okay, yeah.
Only it's a glaze, so it doesn't beat up as much. It's actually probably a better option. But I don't know what it's made of and all that stuff. I need to find out. I will find out.
Wendy mentioned the watermelon cucumber cake. That's my favorite all-time summer cake.
Yeah.
That flavor.
So delicious.
It's so light and sweet. It's so good.
Yeah. I love when you can put like, so it's like a savory, right? Like essentially like a cucumber's more of like a savory thing. So I love when you're able to do that.
Well, it's real fresh because it's like cucumber water.
Yeah, exactly. It's like subtle, delicious. Now, if you're not a fan of cucumber water, wouldn't go that route, but I think it's really good.
Evie asked if glucose syrup can be used instead of corn syrup in modeling chocolate. Have we ever tried that?
I've never tried that. That's a great question. I might have to look into that because I am curious.
Because I don't think corn syrup is actually available
everywhere. Right. I've heard that before. So, that's a good question.
Or is it the same?
Yeah, I wonder if it is. I don't know. I don't have that answer. I wish I did. So to get some of the color out from underneath, I'll just take this is water, and I'll kind of work the food color out from under it too. And it's a pain, but it's the way you gotta do it. So I won't do the whole thing, but I did want to show you that. And then I'd go around the whole thing and clean it up. But for this video, I'm going to start working on the stem, and then I'll probably finish it, like complete it a little bit later, but this is the gist of it. We've gotten like a lot of it done actually. And I knew I'd be a little slower because I'm talking, but not so bad. Okay, let's see. I always have to have my actual vegetable in my face. It's hard to I don't make things up, that's for sure. Like if somebody's like, make an eggplant, it would look somewhat like this, but I wouldn't know all of this. I like to look at this and make sure that I know exactly what I'm looking at. And I'm seeing all these little marks and stuff. It's so much easier when you have the actual object in front of you.
Now I went around in the yard and I started burying eggs, but none of the plants popped up yet. Now I'm wondering, maybe it's still a little bit cold. The spring hasn't come yet completely.
What eggs?
I bought a dozen eggs and just put them in the ground.
For Easter?
No, well, I guess we can use them for Easter too. I mean, if somebody finds them.
I have no idea what you're doing.
Well, we're gonna see if these eggplants grow out of the eggs.
Oh, that went right over my head. These eggs. All right, so I'm putting my blob of modeling chocolate down. These eggs. That seriously went so far over my head. I had no idea what you were talking about. I'm like, Easter?
That's what happens.
That's how the Easter bunny is actually hiding eggs to make eggplants. See, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, eggplants come from eggs.
Pickled eggs.
Dolly asked if you have a sculpting background.
I do. I took sculpting classes. I mostly took drawing and painting classes, but I definitely did take up until advanced though, like classes in college. That was when I was really able to sculpt, because when you're young you don't like have all the materials. But in college I was able to. So a little bit. But mostly just like figuring it out with cake, if I'm gonna be honest. I learned the most about sculpting by making cakes, which is kind of weird. Probably not a lot of people can say that.
Sonny Robinson in the house.
Sonny!
Said hello?
Is it Sonny?
Yeah.
Sonny is on Team Duff with me, and he's awesome. Sonny. It's my first live video. How am I doing? I think I'm gonna add the little bits with chocolate, but I'm gonna get the basic shape of it first. Again, I am making this up as I go. Whoop. How long have we been talking?
Almost an hour and a half, I think.
Oh my god, that's a long time.
Oh, over an hour and a half.
This is the longest eggplant cake known to man. If Sonny were making this, he would make it in about 5 minutes. I don't know if you guys know that about Sonny, but he makes things super fast. All right. So I'm using my tool to hold this bit down while I push it up with my thumb. A lot of times I'll use a tool and my finger, and I'm like working together to create that like really thin little lip. It's all painted. I'm gonna get messy. I can always fix it.
Looks like you're getting some texture from your gloves.
Yeah, and I don't hate it. Like these gloves are a little large, so I'm getting lines and marks, but like there's all this texture in here, so honestly, like when that stuff happens, I just run with it. It's not necessarily intentional, but I'm also not really avoiding it. Just kind of see what happens. What are you laughing at? What are you laughing at?
And the comments are pretty good.
All right, I'm gonna pull this up and try to create that little point. That's not so bad. So with wafer paper, this would be pretty cool because it would be so thin already. and it would obviously have that really like leafy wafer paper effect, but that doesn't mean we can't sculpt it.
Looks like a real darn leaf.
Thank you. Thank you for the encouragement. I'm gonna pull this one up too. So I'm just working with the chocolate that's there, and I'm just pulling it and pushing it and then seeing where it goes. Not so bad. I'm gonna have to clean it. I got purple everywhere.
Karen asked if this is something we can do weekly. Maybe.
Yeah, the reason we did it is, we know that there's a lot of people home right now, but we also were like, well, if we're gonna record this anyway to make the video for Monday, might as well just kind of see if you guys are into it, and if you are, we'll do more of them. I gotta make the cakes anyway, right? Might as well have a chat while we're doing it. We also have Patreon if you guys are interested in that. We've been, I want to post a thing today on there. Just like kind of like what we're up to, behind the scenes stuff, when I'm filming, stuff that I wouldn't necessarily put on, like on YouTube or on even like Instagram or anything like that. Kind of like less professional photos and whatnot of what we're up to. So again, I want this to look about the same size as this. I think a lot of the, like trying to make these things look realistic is all about proportions. So does the proportion match? Is it small or is it too large? I think if you get your proportions correct, then that's like half the battle. The battle. Half the cake battle.
Avalon Cake says hello.
Ah, Avalon. Hey. Oh, I wonder what she's up to. Avalon also makes cakes. You guys should check her out. All right. So I'm gonna add a little imperfections, little dot. I kind of like the one in the real one right here. And when you go in and you sculpt it, you can see like where it is, but when you go to paint it, it is when it really looks best and it like kind of shows. So right now you can probably kind of see it, but when you paint, you let all the food colors seep in and it looks really fun. It's so tiny. And I'm keeping this super random. I say that all the time, but I'm just adding some marks. I'm not thinking about it too much. And I'm really just going to continue to do that. I'm going to thin out the edges how I was before, where I'm taking a tool, using my finger, and flattening out the edges, and just kind of messing with those a little bit more all the way around. I'm going to paint in these darker green colors and some of these brown areas around the edges. This will all be on our video on Monday. I'm also going to darken the entire thing now that I have like a good solid purple happening. But really, I think that's a good place to stop for now.
Okay.
And then you guys can kind of see it finished. I'll cut and do it on Monday and do the whole pretty video. But for the most part, that's the gist of it for now. I know we've been on for like almost 2 hours probably, right?
100 minutes.
100 minutes. 100 minutes, not too bad. But yeah, then I can zone out and really get it done too. It's a little bit hard to talk and sculpt at the same time, but I'm gonna zone out and get this baby finished.
Well, thanks everyone for watching.
Yeah, thanks for watching, and if you guys are into this, let me know. I can post them. And give me ideas and stuff too. Like, what do you guys want me to work on? I know everybody asked for that gelatin tutorial, which people really liked. So that was nice because it was basically based on just people requesting it. So if you guys want to see me make something in particular or do a certain style or focus on one material, whatever. I was thinking about maybe doing one about painting and then one about modeling chocolate too. Those would be good live videos because I know there's a lot of questions about those materials. There's a lot to say about them. So I could do entire videos on chocolate alone. Probably not for 2 hours, or excuse me, 100 minutes.
100 minutes. On the dot.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Maybe next time I'll show my face. Have a good day.